everybody, Bryan Lahr, light painter here from Miami, Florida. And today we're going to talk about some techniques to make one of my favorite images, and that's different spiritual beings, little ghosts and little spirit guys and elves. And it's pretty super easy. One of my favorite techniques is using this little curved LED strip that's in a little like a fluorescent tube kind of backing. And the way you start is starting at the very bottom, turn your light on, kind of curve around, keep coming up, spread it out where the shoulders are, and then keep coming up and go over the head, and then cut the light. And that'll leave a nice, really cool shape that has some banding that happens in it. It looks like nice little energy flows, and then it gives you an opportunity to do some flashlight flashes and stars and that kind of thing as well. So that's one type that I do a whole lot. One of my other favorite types is to actually make kind of a shape. Yeah, and it works really great when it's blowing in the wind like that. And then light it up from the back so that you're just going around the top of the head, you're coming down, you're just circling around. And whatever kind of geometric shapes or symbols or just light, you know, you can go up and down and get vertical stripes. You can do spirals. I love doing spirals out from the solar plexus and little glowy heads. And then the fact that it's kind of waving around gives you these really nice kind of ethereal edge textures. Really very, very cool. And on that note, one of the other really great things to do is just take a cheap ass plastic shopping bag and cut it up into strips so that it kind of like takes on that sort of shape. And you go around, you make a head, you come down, you make kind of a torso, and then you're just continuing to go down until you hit the bottom and crank that thing off, and then you've got this really, really wonderful, nice texture. And then some paper over the top of it, backlit, to give some solidity in the very center of it. Works great every single time. And then what you're probably going to want to use on these, you know, normally I use the big 1300 lumen gun Canon guy here for max light. But in this particular instance, because you're going to be pointing at the camera for a long time, it's better to go with a flashlight that's a little lower wattage, and so that you're not burning it out and you keep detail in it. By the way, one of the things that I'd like to do with the f-stop on my shots is crank it up to max. Like if it's 20s 24, 20s 22, 32 preferably. My little badass 60 millimeter macro lens will go up to 32, and I crank it all the way up to that. That way the definition of the detail happens in a really amazing way. Plus I shoot in RAW exclusively so that I can shoot underexposed. My shots in the camera wind up looking a little bit dark and underexposed, and first couple times I did it, I was like, wow, man, I really missed it. I really missed the detail. But when I loaded it into RAW and had control over exposure and being able to deal with the highlights, I've been getting some really, really wonderful images and keeping some crisp detail in some areas that I really wanted to have happen. So the last little trick that I'll show you is just a plastic water bottle. I wrapped it in some dollar store plastic wrap, cellophane. Coolly, our friends the peacocks making an appearance. So then this fits right in this really wonderful little rig we got set up for the 1300 here, and then again, you're just creating kind of outside shapes and going around and around and around and coming out, give it some depth out to the sides and down to the ground. Works really amazing, and we've gotten some great stuff with that. I'll show you some examples soon, and we'll also go out and do a shoot and show you a lot of these techniques actually happening. So Until then, be in the light. Peace. Today we're indoors in the studio. We're going to do a little tutorial on how I make a little variety of my spirit beings. And you know, one of my favorite ways to roll is to use just an old clear plastic shopping bag, and you know, light it up from behind like that. You can also do this. This light has a top and a bottom, so you can do just the top one and just make sure you're kind of tied around the top up there, and then you can start to draw with that, and the little wispy things wind up giving it a really nice little texture on the outside, like it's blowing in the wind. My other favorite thing is just to take a piece of white craft paper, and when you're exposing, you can just draw on this thing, and voila, there you are. You know, and you can cut out a bunch of different sizes and shapes, and they all make really cool. Like, this is a really big head guy, man. Yeah. So it's a really simple, super simple technique, but really pretty cool. So we're going to try a few of them right now and see what the heck we get. And here we go. And that's probably a good one. So we'll take a look here. It'll be up in just a second. There we go. Oh, very nice. Wow, that really is. Okay, let's do a couple more of those. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the camera setup for this particular shot. I shoot on manual mode and either bulb mode if you're going to do a just super long exposure, but I wind up doing multiple exposures of like 30 seconds a bunch of times. And the f-stop on this, I usually ramp up to at least 18, sometimes 20, 22, just so that you get a massive amount of detail, and the highlights in the spirit being don't get so blown out that you can't give them some good detail when you get them into RAW. The ISO on this is 200. I like to go even lower if you can. And you know, just a comment no matter, you're always going to have to figure in your environment as well. Like the first couple of shots that we did were really blown out. I'm used to shooting in the garden with a lot more ambient light, and we're here in a really dark studio today. So the light reciprocity wound up being a lot bigger than it normally is. So we had to bump it back a little bit. And that's pretty much it for the camera settings. So thanks again. Thank you.